KL Publications presents The Musical Mind, Mystery in Nature by Ryan C. Sanders. DJ WooSaaa had always been in tune with nature. For years, he had been the voice behind one of the most popular radio shows in the city, mixing beats that resonated with his audience on a deep level. People listened to his music to escape, to reflect, to move, sometimes, just to feel alive. But after returning from a personal retreat in the lush, untouched forest of Honduras, something felt off. The trip was supposed to be a simple break. WooSaaa had needed a rest, a break from the grind of the radio world, a chance to clear his mind and recharge his spirit. His time in Honduras had been nothing short of transformative. Immersed in the serene rhythm of nature, he spent days meditating by the waterfalls, hiking through the jungles, and listening to the symphony of birds and insects, an orchestra that seemed far more profound than the music he had been playing back home. Upon returning to the city, however, WooSaaa noticed a strange shift in his mind. The vibrational energy that had uplifted him in Honduran wilderness seemed to fade, replaced by a subtle lethargy. The more he listened to the sound of the city, the incessant hum of traffic, the sterile beats on the radio, the more he realized something was missing. His thoughts were foggy, his energy diminished. The music that had once invigorated him now felt hollow, lacking the depth and resonance he had come to appreciate during his retreat. At first, he brushed it off as post-vacation blues, but the feelings persisted, gnawing at him like an unsolved puzzle. He began to wonder whether something more was at play. One night, lying awake in bed, WooSaaa replayed the sounds of Honduras in his mind, the gentle rustle of leaves, the natural harmony of the animals, and then compared them to the artificial beats he had been spinning at the station. There was a stark difference, but it wasn't just the content, it was the frequency. He remembered reading about vibrational frequencies and their effect on the human mind. During his retreat, a local leader had spoken about how different frequencies can either elevate or suppress one's consciousness. At the time, WooSaaa hadn't thought much of it, but now, as he reflected on his experience, the words seemed to echo with a new urgency. Determined to get to the bottom of it, WooSaaa embarked on an investigation. He started by analyzing the music he played on his own show, checking the sound waves, beats per minute, and most importantly, the frequencies. What he found was shocking. Most of the music broadcasted on the radio operated within a narrow frequency range, one known to suppress higher cognitive functions. These frequencies didn't promote creativity or awareness. Instead, they seemed to dull the senses, keeping listeners in a passive, almost hypnotic state. WooSaa's suspicions grew. Could this be intentional? He began digging deeper into the history of radio frequencies and soon stumbled upon a dark truth. Decades ago, regulatory agencies had established guidelines for radio frequencies, claiming to optimize sound quality. But WooSaa's research pointed to something more insidious. The frequencies used in mainstream broadcasting had been carefully chosen to influence the masses, keeping people docile, distracted, and as Malcolm X once said, bamboozled, hoodwinked. It was a form of control, one that operated just below the level of awareness. By saturating the airways with these dulling frequencies, those in power could ensure that people stayed lethargic, unwilling to fight, question, or resist the system that oppressed them. WooSaaa was enraged. He had always prided himself on being a voice for the people, someone who used music to inspire and uplift. But now he realized he had unknowingly been playing into a system designed to suppress that very potential. This is bigger than music, he thought. This is about consciousness. They're keeping people asleep. But WooSaaa wasn't the type to sit idly by. If the system was rigged, he would find a way to hack it. He knew that certain frequencies, like those found in nature, resonated at higher vibrations, encouraging mental clarity, emotional healing, and spiritual awakening. These were the frequencies he had experienced in Honduras, and now he had to find a way to bring them into the music without alerting the powers that be. He got to work, spending hours in the home studio, experimenting with sound waves and beats. He began mixing in subtle earth-resonating frequencies into his music. 432 hertz, the natural harmonic frequency of the earth, and 528 hertz, known as the love frequency, which was believed to promote healing and DNA repair. The challenge was to embed these frequencies in such a way that they wouldn't be detected by the regulators, but would still have a profound effect on the listeners. It was a delicate work, but WooSaaa was determined. Slowly, he began incorporating these hidden frequencies into his radio show. At first, the changes were subtle, barely noticeable to the casual listener. But soon, people started to respond. His phone lines lit up with callers saying they felt different when they listened to his show. Some reported feeling more energized, others more focused or calm. Many said they couldn't quite put their finger on it, but the music seemed to lift their spirits in a way they hadn't felt in years. WooSaaa smiled to himself. It was working. As the weeks went by, WooSaaa refined his technique, becoming more daring with his mixes. He knew he was walking a fine line. If the controlling agency discovered what he was doing, it would shut him down in an instant. But he also knew that the stakes were too high to stop. People deserved to hear music that uplifted them, that restored balance to their minds and soul. The system had been rigged for too long, and it was time to fight back, one frequency at a time. Despite the risk, WooSaaa's mission was clear. He wasn't just a DJ anymore. He was a soldier in a battle for consciousness. Every time he went on air, he was playing not just music, but a new way of thinking, a new way of being. And though most of his listeners didn't know it, they were slowly waking up from the spell that had kept them subdued for so long. One night after an especially powerful set, WooSaaa sat back in his chair and reflected on how far he had come. He thought about the people listening to his show, going about their lives without realizing the frequencies that had once held them back were now setting them free. He thought about the power of sound and how it could be used for good or ill depending on who controlled it. He had chosen to use it for good, to restore balance, to elevate minds, to help people see the world with fresh eyes. WooSaaa knew the battle was far from over, but for the first time in a long time, he felt hopeful. He cracked the code, and now it was only a matter of time before the world began to wake up. And as his final track of the night played, a hauntingly beautiful blend of rhythm and resonance, he smiled knowing that somewhere out there, minds were being freed. The revolution, he realized, was already in motion. It was in the frequencies waiting to be heard. Thank you for listening. Please subscribe.